Boru Aboye. So today I got wind of yet another controversy within the ranks of Orisha lifestyle. And this time it's coming out of a group of Cuban practitioners who were contesting the legitimacy of the Yanifa designation. And when I got hip to this little controversy, I went to the thread, and as is my practice, I studied it. I read, and I could see within a couple of hours it had grown over 100, 120, 130 comments, right? So I started scrolling through and reading the comments, and I could see that, there were people who are have been initiated many years and had come from well-established lineages, and of course people put all their credentials out and substantiated themselves and their positions based on their experience, right? But this thread is typical of 99.9% of all of these threads where people are making these bold claims. And this group of people is basically, they were moving to have somebody banished, right? Some Cuban practitioner who was involved with the whole process of initiating Yanifa. They were trying to banish this guy, and they had their own reasons for saying so. I mean, basically that his participation in these initiations was contradictory to the Cuban tradition, which in and of itself is, that's their own position. But what I want to, point out for you, and I want you to really catch this lesson and hold it close to your heart, is in this thread of hundreds of comments from people who are priests and priestesses with many, many decades of initiation from well-established lineages, the one thing that's missing from the whole conversation is reference to Odu Ifa. There was absolutely zero recitation of Ifa. No reference to Odu. Not even that they recited. This Odu, Okanran D says 1, 2, 3. Or Obada Ogunda says 1, 2, 3. There was no reference to Odu Ifa. No reference to Erindilokun. None. Zero. Right? So that's a huge red flag. You gotta see that. Okay? As a practitioner, when you see these long debates, and these people are, steeped in the tradition and all that, and they're making no reference to Odu. That's a red flag. Because how are we going to have a religious debate, or how are we going to make a position, a religious position, with no reference to the sacred text, when the sacred text is what defines our practice? It's what sets the parameters for our tradition. That's true everywhere. So how are we going to have a serious theological conversation without drawing upon the theological principles that make our practice viable, right? So these arguments are not about theology. They're never about theology. They're about something that marketers call product differentiation. What is product differentiation? Product differentiation is basically a marketing strategy that creates a perception in the mind of the buyer that one product is so radically different from the other product that you have to choose one over the other. You see these two products on the shelf side by side, and you're always going to choose one over the other, right? And so, for example, 7-Up is different from Sprite. Coke is different from Pepsi. Burger King is different from McDonald's. Pizza Hut is different from Domino's. Okay? That's based on perception from, product differentiation. You perceive them to be different because they've been marketed as different things, right? So when you look at these long debates and everybody's trying to convince each other That what the Nigerians is doing is so, oh, what the Cubans is doing is so, what the Brazil, right? And they're making all this hype about this big difference and this big outrage about what the other sects of the community are doing, and they're not drawing upon any of the sacred text. It's about product differentiation, right? They want you. They know that you're going to see one next to the other in the marketplace of life, and they want you to choose one over the other every time. Okay. Now, as an African American, that will never do. That will never ever do. Never. That will never do. I don't want you to be caught up in any of that confusion ever as an African American practitioner. Okay? You have a set of problems that you want solved through this tradition. If you came into the Cuban or the Brazilian or the Nigerian or Dahomian, whatever, it doesn't matter. You belong to the African American community. And by definition, there are certain things that are plaguing our community. Mass incarceration, gentrification, underemployment, all of the different forms of social ills of, drug addiction, alcoholism, homelessness. You could just go down the line. You talk to any sociologist, and they'll tell you that we suffer exponentially from all the social, ailments. And you know this based on just looking at your own family. So whether or not the Cubans do something, that the Nigerians approve of, or the Nigerians do something that the Cubans approve of, we have to set a clear set of goals and create a shared vision for ourselves that puts all of those differences into context. Shared vision puts all of those differences into proper context. Okay? So once we know that our goal is we're going to eradicate homelessness, the only question you have for the Cubans is, can you help us eradicate homelessness? The only question you have for the Nigerians is, can you help us eradicate homelessness? The only questions you have for the Brazilians, can you help us eradicate homelessness? Who has the best program for homelessness? Who's got the best medicine, the best ebos? Who knows the most verses? Who's got the best rituals and ceremonies for eradicating homelessness? Because that's all we're concerned about, eradicating homelessness. We want, in the African American community, we want all of our children to graduate from college. We want all of our children to be homeowners. Who can help us achieve that? That's all that matters. Okay? And all the other arguments become 100% irrelevant. And so shared vision transcends identity politics and product differentiation 100% of the time. All right? So within the School of Orisha Studies, we are operating on the shared vision that has been passed down from Oduifa, that is universally true for all human beings, and that is to help bring about the good condition. And we understand that bringing about the good condition is only possible if you have mastered 3 areas of your own personal priesthood. Okay, bringing about the good condition is only possible to the extent that, number one, you know who you are. You know what your natural gifts and talents are, because it's through your natural gifts and talents that you're going to be able to make a meaningful contribution, right? You're not going to be able to help bring about the good condition by imitating, right, or pretending. You can only help bring about the good condition and make a contribution based on who you are and what you brought into the world. So number one is self-discovery. Who are you and what do you bring into the world? Number two, logically, once you know who you are, once you know what you brought into the world, you know what your natural gifts and talents are, you need to hone those skills. You need to have a daily practice that's going to enhance your natural gifts and talents. It's going to help you master the tools and the skills associated with your natural gifts and talents. And then thirdly, you need to dedicate yourself to sacred service. Sacred service is where you take your natural gifts and talents and all your skills and discipline and you focus it onto a group or a project or a cause that is greater than yourself. This is something that becomes your life's work. This is what will survive you, that once you're dead and gone, your sacred service will live on because you will have built some sort of a monument through your efforts. Okay? That is how we in the School of Orisha Studies are going to help you to participate in the shared vision that has been passed down from Olodumare and mandated through Ifa in the Holy Odu, Irosun Iwuri. Okay? So I invite you to stay clear of the controversy and the pseudo conflicts, face your destiny, get busy doing what needs to be done for you and your community right here, right now. Aboru Aboye, Aboshishe.